It feels like magic each time I do this. I'm going to take you through step by step exactly what I do to make this process work, because it isn't magic, it's a lot of experimentation and work to make sure that the image transfers properly. Hi, I'm Jessica Russo Scherr, and I've been doing all things image transfer with my jelly plate. And this tutorial will guide you through the multitudes of different ways that you can use image transfer to create successful ways of doing a monotype with the gel plate. These are some of my videos all put together, and I think the combination of these tutorials all together will give you a good idea of how to edit the photos and how to do a transfer successfully, as well as show you the different ways that you can do the reverse image painting, of how to combine colors, and all of that good stuff. So drop your comments down below. Let me know if there's anything I missed in this compilation, and I'll add it in my next one. So first, I applied a very thin coat of acrylic paint onto my gel plate, and then I lay my photo on top. Now, I don't use any photo. I use a photo that I've taken, that I've edited in Snapseed to make sure it's high resolution and high contrast, and printed it out on a laser printer. You just need gentle pressure when applying the transfer onto the acrylic paint, and you lift it off right away. You want to make sure you lift it up before the acrylic paint dries. Now, I'm removing some of the excess acrylic paint from the edges just using some scrap paper. I will probably repurpose this into another project, so I'm being as least wasteful as possible. And then I go in and do my reverse painting. This is my favorite part because I am a painter. This is what I love doing. I love mixing colors and building these layers. It's kind of interesting because you have to work in reverse, starting with the smallest details, the highlights, the little accent bits, and then you build up layer by layer by layer. Technically, I should let each layer dry, but since this is a large plate, I'm working around the plate. So usually when I get to another layer, it's already dry, and I don't have to wait too much. Now, if you watched any of my other videos, you've seen I had a few accidents with this piece. I spilled some water on it, I messed it up, and that's okay. Things happen. I worked through it. I think it came out all right. The final layer, you go over the entire plate with either acrylic paint or gel medium. You need to work kind of fast because you need to lay your paper on top of it. In this case, I am using some Bristol. So once it is fully dry, you can try to roll up and peel off the gel plate. If the gel plate comes up fine, then just keep on pulling. In this case, mine got stuck. There was little bits that were just not transferring over. So I added the gel medium onto the little pieces that were stuck onto the gel plate. And then I squished it back together and let it sit for like another hour or two until I felt confident that I could pull it off. And then I rolled it off, and you would think I could be done then. I could be done then, but no, I wanted to paint some more. And I still have paint left on my palette. So I went through and painted more details. I really wanted the blue to come out a little bit more. So I went through and worked out some details, built up the layers a little bit more. I painted this on Jello, technically gelatin, a gelatin plate. It's this big flat floppy thing. I covered it with paint with this rolly thing that's called a brayer. I laid a photo that I took on top of it face down. I gave it a gentle press up to reveal my photo on the gel plate. I touched up the edges. I painted the details first. I covered the whole thing in acrylic paint, covering everything I just painted. I covered it with paper. I let it dry overnight, peeled the gelatin plate off. And what's left is my photograph of Naples, Italy, reverse painted with the help of some gelatin. To get your gel plate image transfers to work like this, you need to do this first. It all comes down to how you edit your photos. Start with a high-resolution photograph that has strong lighting. To see if it's a good candidate, put it into black and white and up the contrast. I use Photoshop for this, but you can use a lot of different editing apps that are free. I usually take the editing process a step further in Photoshop, where first I make sure I increase the DPI to 300. It's very important that you have resample deselected and you check the overall size to make sure it's still a big image. And this is where I edited it into black and white by going to Image, Mode, Grayscale, and then I use Image Mode Adjustments to fine-tune the photograph. Then if you go to Image Mode and change it to bitmap. Bitmap will change it into halftone. And you can play around with these settings, but I find that these are the settings that work well for my photographs most of the time. So I hit OK there, and then I hit OK on this next palette. Halftone turns all the gradients and all the value transitions into these little tiny dots. These dots are fantastic for image transfers because the image transfer works best when there's a fair amount of toner on the photo. And this concentrates all of the toner in the dark areas with larger dots. Now I want to go through this process that sounds a little confusing. I want to go back up to Image, Mode, and I have to change it back to grayscale first before I have any of the options to change it to anything else. It will bring up this box, just hit OK, and then I'm going to go back up to Image, Mode, and then I can select CMYK. And those are the colors that your printer uses to print. And it will give you a richer, deeper black when you print a color laser print of a black and white image. I have a more detailed tutorial and several tutorials on that other longer video platform. It's more in depth and it's linked in my bio. So once you follow those steps, your jelly plate image transfers will be a lot more successful, and maybe they'll look something like this. If you have any questions, drop them down below. Happy to try to answer any problems. Also, if you have any editing tips you'd like to share with anyone else, drop those in the comments so we could all help each other out. I did a big pull. Okay, if you don't know me, my name is Jessica. I have this extra large jelly plate for doing monotypes. I did the image transfer one day, and then I got sick for like 9 days, and I left the image transfer just sitting on this big plate. I was so worried it wasn't gonna work out, but here it is. I started with this image. It's a pretty high resolution photo that I took in Lisbon of a hotel. Since it's like a gigantic gel plate, I just attached them together. I was okay with like having seams and everything in it because I wanted to add a lot of texture. Looking for something that resonated better with the whole texture of Lisbon. And it was at this point that I got sick for like 9 days and I just let it sit on the plate. So if you were wondering how long you could wait in between the image transfer and doing the rest of the process, at least 9 days. Possibly even longer, because, you know, at this point, I didn't know if it was going to work, but, you know, spoiler alert, it worked. I was able to get a very clean pull of this distressed image of a hotel in Lisbon. And I am totally enjoying working this large with this process and experimenting with its possibilities, and I have some ideas for upcoming prints. I should not have done that. And I'm not talking about getting paint in my hands because, let's face it, there's always paint in my hands. I am doing a gel plate image transfer. This is a photo I took and I edited it, printed out all the ways I normally do, and it did not work because this happens. I tap it, it's still wet. I lay out some more acrylic paint. Unfortunately, too much acrylic paint, so I scoop some out with my hands because, let's face it, I always have paint on my hands. I roll out another layer of acrylic paint, fairly certain that my new image is not going to transfer. I am very pleasantly surprised that it does transfer. The only thing is that it's a little bit blurrier. But then I call in my daughter who's helping me lean into this blurriness. We add a layer of gel medium and then I go in and paint into the wet gel medium to kind of keep this whole blurry feel. And after letting it dry onto a piece of Bristol overnight, I peel off the gel medium and I go back in and I'm reworking the image. Try to create some more detail in some areas and less detail in others. And here is the final work. Details in the caption, including all my supplies. This is by far the most horrifying place in Naples, Italy. And no, it's not the apartment complex from Gomorrah, or this is, I think the name is actually called the Little Shop of Horrors. It's on Via dei Tribunali. It is in Centro Storico, and it is the shop just packed with horrifying things from, you can see like doll body parts kind of like just hanging, things are just hanging. It is a cacophony of incredible things and priceless treasures, I'm sure, and garbage and junk all juxtaposed next to one another. I created this gel plate image transfer based off of my photograph of the place, and you could actually see my husband coming out of the antique shop, and he has such a big smile on his face. Have you ever been there? I want to know. I want to know more. I totally ripped my first gel plate, broke it, tore it. It was bad. And I did it because I was screwing up this process repeatedly. My paper was sticking to the plate and the images were just not transferring. You can check out one of my pinned videos that shows my initial struggles with this process. And here are the top questions I get in my comments. Yes, you need a laser printer. Laser printer toner repels the acrylic paint, which makes this process work. If you have a laser printer and it's still not working, you might not have to go out and buy a new printer. I think it's the quality of the images that you're editing. They need to be super high resolution. Change them into CMYK, change them into halftone, and then see if they're still not transferring. It's really important that there's a ton of toner on the photo in order to make the image transfer properly. Now that my image transferred, I can start doing some reverse image painting. I'm still in the process of doing this, so you're going to have to click all the things so you can come back and see the finished results. I'm really excited about this one though, and I hope I don't screw it up. This is where the magic happens. Well, technically it's science. This is how gel plate image transfers work. First, you need a laser print. You need a laser print because it uses toner, and toner has little itty bits of plastic in it that repel acrylic paint. That's what's on my gel plate, acrylic paint. And when you lay a photo that's laser printed on top of the gel plate, on top of the acrylic paint soaks into the laser print all the places where there's no toner. And the toner repels the acrylic paint, so that acrylic paint stays on the gel plate. Then it's open to do all sorts of other things, and I will be working on this one, doing some reverse painting, and I'll post the results whenever I finish that one. This is what some of mine look like after I do some reverse image painting. Let me know if that makes any sense or if you have any other comments.